Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesu Sunyavadi Paskachade Sitarne Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpatubhishcha Kripasindhavya Bhatapatitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And reading from Bhagavatam 11:4-7. The verse is in prose, so we cannot chant the Sanskrit. Indro Vishankya Mama Dhamma Didriksha Iti Kamam Nayunkta Sa Ganam Sa Badar Upakyam Gap Saro Gana Vasanta Sumanda Vatai Shri Prekshan Eshubir Avidyad Anta Maki Gyan. Indra, Lord Indra, Visankhya, fearing, Mama, my, Dhamma, kingdom, Didrikshati, he wants to devour, Iti, thinking thus, Kama, Cupid, Nayunkta, he engaged, Saganam, with his associates, Saha, he, Cupid, Badari Upakyam, to the ashram named Bandarika, Gatva, going, Apsaragana, with the heavenly society girls, Vasanta, the spring season, Sumanda Vatai, and the gentle breezes, Shri Prekshana, consisting of the glances of women, Ishubhi, with his arrows, Avidyat, attempted to pierce, Atat Mahi Gyan, not knowing his greatness. BBT translation, King Indra became fearful, thinking that Naranarayana Rishi would become very powerful by his severe penances and seize Indra's heavenly kingdom. Thus Indra, not knowing the transcendental glories of the incarnation of the Lord, sent Cupid and his associates to the Lord's residence in Badrikashrama. As the charming breezes of spring created a most sensuous atmosphere, Cupid himself attacked the Lord with arrows in the form of the irresistible glances of beautiful women. BBT purport. This verse and the following 9 verses illustrate the personality of God's head's opulence of supreme renunciation. The word atan mahi gna, not understanding the glories of the Lord, indicates that King Indra was placing the personality of Godhead on the same level as he himself, considering the Lord an ordinary enjoyer who would be attracted by mundane sex life. Indra's plot to cause the fall down of Naranarayan Rishi could not affect the Lord, but it reveals the short-sightedness of Indra himself. Because Indra is attached to his heavenly kingdom, he took it for granted that the Supreme Lord was performing austerities to acquire such flickering phantasmagorias as the kingdom of heaven, Tridasha Pur Akasha Pushpayate. King Indra became fearful, translation again, King Indra became fearful, thinking that Naranarayan Rishi would become very powerful by his severe penances and seize Indra's heavenly kingdom. Thus Indra, not knowing the transcendental glories of the incarnation of the Lord, sent Cupid and his associates to the Lord's residence in Badrikashrama. As the charming breezes of spring created a most sensuous atmosphere, Cupid himself attacked the Lord with arrows in the form of the irresistible glances of beautiful women. So we could talk about the renunciation of the Lord, but of course that's not in this particular verse today. The focus is on the envy of Indra, the inappropriate behavior of Indra, that Indra was feeling envy. Indra was thinking that the Lord was like him. He thought, oh, well, I'm attached to the heavenly kingdom. So naturally, if someone's doing austerities, they must want what I have. They must want what I have. He thought the Lord was envious of him. And he was actually afraid. He was fearful of his own master. How ridiculous. You know, if your employer gives you a desk and gives you facility and gives you a salary, and to think that your employer then is envious of your desk and your salary is very foolish. But actually, Indra was envious. He was envious of the Lord. He was envious that whatever the Lord achieves, I want to take away from him. If we think of what envy is, and I discussed this many times, envy is I want what someone else has, or at least I don't want them to have it. If I can't have it, then I don't want them to have it. Lesser forms of envy would be you can have something as long as I have more. Like, I'm okay if you have a nice car as long as my car is nicer. I'm okay if your kid's smart as long as my kid is smarter. And envy is also thinking that everyone else is envious. This is what's happening with Indra. He's thinking, oh, Narayan Rishi, he's envious of my kingdom and he wants to take it away from me. So let me stop him. This mentality, of course, is actually demoniac, as Krishna says in the 16th chapter, that we're thinking, you know, I've defeated my enemies. I've defeated those who want to take things from me, and I'll defeat more in the future. So he's trying to defeat Narayan Rishi with beautiful women, not realizing that Narayan Rishi is the source of all beautiful women. And in fact, Narayan Rishi can become himself the most beautiful woman in the form of Mohini. So Indra's doing something very foolish on all levels. And he's envious and fearful of his own master, but this attachment, he's attached to his own kingdom. He's afraid he's going to lose it. And so he's envious of anybody who appears to be a rival to him. And I'm sorry to have to say, but it has to be said, that this mentality of Indra is basically pervades materialistic thinking. Even if we think it's not, we might think, well, I'm not like that. I'm not like that at all. But if we are actually, if we are materialistic beings, we must have that to some extent. So we're going to look at that first. To what extent and how is this kind of mentality common among persons in this world, perhaps even ourselves? And that what we should do instead is being satisfied with our quota. That being satisfied with our quota is part of our spiritual process. It's the result of our spiritual process, but it's also part of the process itself. And if we're not satisfied with our quota, if we do envy others, it harms not only us, but everyone who's dear to us. So that it's common in materialistic life. There's so much research that we're more attached to keeping what we have than gaining something new. That people would rather hold on to $50 that they have than risk losing the $50 to gain $100. We're very afraid of losing what we have. We're afraid that and we're hankering for what we don't have, both things. And both of those are a result of not understanding that I am a soul who already has everything that I could ever want or everything that I could ever need. That's the reality. The reality is everything I desire through possession of possessions, through possessions of titles, through possessions of power, through possessions of influence, possessions of respect, possessions of loving relationships. Everything I hope to gain from all of that, I as a soul already have. In this world, when I identify with the body and the mind, then I feel myself to be in need. I feel myself to be lacking because I don't feel the connection with the source of everything, the Supreme Lord, who is unlimited. And therefore, I become filled with fear and desire and attachment. I have to keep my stuff and I'm afraid of losing it. Of course, as devotees, we should want to take care of Krishna's things that are under our care. But that's different than feeling I need these things to be happy. I need these things to be safe. And I'm also, one of my fears is that somebody who has more than me will use their additional wealth or power or influence to exploit me and to harm me. This is what Indra's afraid of. He's afraid Narnarayan Rishi will become more powerful than me and he will take what I have. And from a material point of view, that's very logical because in this material world, the strong do exploit the weak. The powerful do exploit those who are less powerful. That happens. One living entity is food for another. On a literal level, that literally all of us have to eat something that also has life, even vegetarians. Even if you're saying, I'm just picking the fruit from the tree, well, the tree wanted those fruits to produce more trees other places, and we're interfering with that for the tree, right? You build a house, you're disturbing the homes of so many insects, so many other creatures that had their home there, right? So those who are, we do that. Those who are more powerful do take from those who are less powerful. Of course, with saintly persons, what to speak of God, as Narayana Rishi, they actually protect and care for those who are less powerful, like parents should care for their children. We're also afraid that if others have more than us, then we won't have enough. We see that this world is limited in its resources, and we're thinking, well, if somebody takes more, there won't be enough for me. Just like there's, a plate of some kind of food, there's a plate of cookies or biscuits for those of you in the UK, or samosas or something desirable. And, we look at how many people there are and how many of the food objects there are. And we're seeing, is somebody taking so much that I won't have any? So we're afraid like that. If someone has a better car, if someone has more intelligence, if someone has more creativity, I won't get enough. And this envy and this fear and this attachment extend even to spirituality. So we get envious of spiritually advanced persons. Now, some of Indra's envy of Narayan Rishi is like that because the Lord is appearing as if he were a human sage. He's not appearing as Narayan Rishi as God. And we're very envious of spiritually enlightened persons because they remind us that what we really don't have is higher consciousness. And they remind us that we're the source of all of our own problems. That if I were to have higher consciousness, I would not experience my problems as problems. I would be happy in all situations. As stated in the Bhagavatam 4:321, the verse, one who is conducted by false ego and thus always distressed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of self-realized persons. Being unable to rise to the standard of self-realizations, he envies such persons as much as demons envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like, why are you happy? You're not supposed to be happy. How come you're so happy? Indrajumna Swami tells the story that he was about to travel through a security checkpoint at an airport, and one man in line with him said, you're too happy. The security guys they're going to pull you out because they're going to think, well, nobody could be that happy. Yeah. So what are we going to do about this problem? Because this problem of envy and fear and attachment, it causes us to suffer. It actually is the main thing that causes us to suffer rather than the circumstances of our life. right? If we have some terrible life circumstances, but we're above attachment, fear, anger, envy, then we're not going to be very disturbed by those circumstances. Maybe just very momentarily, very superficially. So what are we going to do? So one solution is to be satisfied with our quota, to be satisfied with what we have. And of course, this is explained in the Ishopanishad Mantra 1. Isyavastyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena twak tvena bunjita madridha kasyasviddanam. The translation of that is everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only such things necessary for himself, which are set aside as one's quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So we know actually everything belongs to Krishna. Even if Narnarayan Rishi wants Indra's heavenly kingdom, why can't he take it? It's his. It's his. If you're an employer and you have your employee use something for their work, you have the ability to reassign them. You can say, I want you to be at another desk. I want you to do some other work in the company. And the employee can't say, but this is my desk. It says, no, it belongs to the company. Right? So our quota is whatever has been given to us by our karma, by our desires, and by the Lord's will. We can look at Bhagavad Gita 4:22. Adricha laba santusto. Santusta means satisfaction. Dvandvato vimatsara. Matsara is envy. Sama shridav asirocha. Kritvapi na nibhadyate. Srila Prabhupada's translation. He who is satisfied with gain that comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, though performing actions. And that's what we would actually like. We'd actually like to be in a situation where no matter what we do in this world, we're not disturbed by it. We're experiencing a higher pleasure. I think I can safely assume that any of you listening to this class, either live or later on a recording, that you're listening to this because that's what you want, right? That's what we want. That's what we're studying this for. We're not studying this so we can become rich and famous and powerful in this world, even though we might still have those desires. We're studying this so that we can remain equipoised, that we can be on a platform of transcendental bliss, regardless of the ups and downs of this world. And part of that is to become satisfied with gains that comes of its own accord. Now, gains that come of its own accord it can mean you just sit in one place and chant Hare Krishna like one saintly person that Prahlad Maharaj met. And whatever comes, comes. It can mean like that. Like Madhavendra Puri, who doesn't make any effort for food and only eats what comes of its own accord. But when it generally means, for most of us, most of the time, is that we do the work that's assigned to us according to what Srila Prabhupada calls our psychophysical nature. That we act in the world in one of the four fields of work, the field of ideas, fields of government, fields of resources, fields of artistry, according to our nature, that we are in the proper ashram according to our stage of life, a student and family life, retired, or preparing for death, according to our age and our disposition, and whatever comes due to our honest work, according to our varna and ashram, we accept. And we don't do something dishonest or unethical or envious to gain something beyond what comes from our honest work. If we look at the qualities that a Vaishnava would have, one is called Maitra, which means friendly or never cheating anyone, and Akinchana, not thinking that one has any material possessions. The only possession one has is the Lord, or never professing to possess anything in this world, to be non-possessive. I mean, one way we're satisfied with our quota is realizing that really everything belongs to God. Nothing belongs to me. There's a story I like to tell. It's an emotional story, so sometimes it's hard to tell it. It's a true story that in medieval Europe, there was one very famous rabbi who was a teacher of the Bible, of the Torah, and he and his wife had two teenage sons. So one time while the husband was out teaching, Both the sons came down with some kind of disease that killed them very quickly. There are certain diseases like that, certain kinds of meningitis and things that a person's fine and then they're sick and within a few hours they're gone. So he comes home and his wife meets him at the door and says, "My dear husband, I didn't tell you this, but some time ago a traveling merchant came through and gave me two jewels to keep for safety." So in those days, there weren't banks and people would keep their possessions, sometimes Prabhupada says with a merchant or sometimes with a friend or something to keep for safety. So she said, "One merchant gave me two jewels to keep, and today he returned and asked for me to give them back." And the husband said, "Well, why are you even telling me this? Of course, you have to give them back." And he said, "What were those jewels?" And she shows him the dead bodies of their sons. And then they said, "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So I said, this is an emotional story. It's hard for me to tell it without being emotional because it's actually hard when it happens, doesn't it? I mean, it's hard if your child dies or your husband dies, or even if you're a devotee, it can be very, very difficult thing. Or when Krishna takes away your things, right? As Prabhupada says, we all accept when Krishna gives things that it's the hand of the Lord, but it's hard to accept when Krishna takes things that it's the hand of the Lord. But if we're in that position, then we're always peaceful. So we shouldn't want to take anything from anyone. We shouldn't want to take anyone's possessions. And not only does this apply to gross stealing, I think I can assume that most of us here are not thieves. Perhaps we've stolen something in our life. When I was 5 years old in kindergarten, there was in the kindergarten they had a little play dining set, plates and spoons and cups and I had the exact same set at home, except I was missing the little wooden spoon, so I stole it from school, which I still feel bad about uh, uh, now, so many decades later. So perhaps we've stolen something in our life, but I'd like to assume that most of you are not thieves. So we may think, well, this doesn't apply to me, that I'm not trying to take other people's possession. But we might be doing this on a subtle level. Do I try to take other people's time that they're not willing to give? I have the experience repeatedly that, like, I'll be giving seminars all day and answering people's questions and helping people out. And it finally gets to a point where I can't do it anymore. I physically can't do it anymore. It's like 9:30 at night and someone comes and says, "Can I ask you something?" And I'll say, "Look, I have a body and I need to rest. I need to stop now. I'd love to answer you." And I genuinely wish I could be there, but I just can't. And sometimes those people will keep insisting, "Oh, but it's just a small thing. It's just a small thing." And I'm thinking, why can't you respect that I'm not willing to give you my time and energy right now? I'm just not willing. I'm not willing to, at this particular point in time, to sacrifice my own health and my own rest. I have to get up in the morning and teach again, and that's more important. And hopefully, I trust that Krishna will arrange. This is what I'm thinking internally, like, I trust that Krishna will arrange for your question to be answered. It doesn't have to be answered by me. But this kind of thing is quite common where, we're thinking, okay, your time and energy, I can demand it, or demanding one's knowledge, right? I'll also have sometimes people ask me philosophical questions that would require me to do hours and hours of research. And what I've come to do now is, if it's not something I can immediately answer and I don't even know of anyone I can refer them to, I'll say, "Look, I'm not willing to put in 4 to 6 hours to research this question. How important it is to you." Someone asked me, two different people actually, asked me recently, do the yugas sometimes get reversed? And I said, "Why does this matter to you? Why is it important for you to know the answer to this question? Is it important enough to you that it's worth me spending hours of my time to look up the answer?" And in both cases, the persons were respectful. But sometimes people are very, very insistent. I have to have the answer right now. Other people's affection. We can be demanding of affection and care and love from somebody that for whatever reason they're not willing to give. So if we're not satisfied with our quota, whether it's gross things or whether it's subtle things, actually our whole family will be affected. The Shastra says that if we do the right thing, if we become devotees, many generations of our family are benefited. And if we take others' property, especially the property of a Brahmana, Narnarayan Rishi is God, but he's appearing as a Brahmana, then the more our family will suffer. We can see on a practical level, if a person becomes a criminal, the whole family suffers. Right? The person goes to jail. They're not available to take care of their family. Their family's reputation is hurt. But this happens even going on for generations. The family is affected. And why is this the case? Because they may be unknowingly partaking of the enjoyment or the benefits of the stolen items, either again gross or subtle. They may develop a sinful mentality by association. We could say taking birth in that family may be the means for them to get bad karma for their previous lives. If I've been envious of others in previous lives, I may take birth in a family of thieves, right? They're having bad association in their family may be the result of their offending devotees in previous lives. And knowing this, knowing that if I'm envious, if I want others' gross or subtle possessions, that it will affect other people as well, is certainly a motive for me to do the right thing. Many times I might not do the right thing for myself, but I might do the right thing for my children. So, what should I learn from this? It's very easy to justify encroaching on someone else's quota. It's so easy. Well, I need it more than they do. I need the food more than they do. I need this time. I need this energy. I need this knowledge more than they do. I deserve it more than they do. I'm more worthy. One that comes up a lot is I have an urgent crisis. I have an urgent crisis. You need to not eat and not sleep to help me because I have an urgent crisis. Now, that might be true sometimes. Maybe I just broke my arm and the bone's sticking out and I'm bleeding everywhere and I have to say, hey, I know you're hungry and tired, but can you drive me to the hospital? So there may actually be an urgent crisis, but most of the time that we encroach on others' subtle or gross possessions is because we think I have needs, I have desires, I have an urgent crisis, or I would use it better than they're using it. I would do a better job. I would do a better job of running this project or having this possession or having this money. So if I'm going to show respect to all living beings, which is an essential part of the process of bhakti, just worshiping God and not showing respect to other living beings, Lord Kapila Dev says that's like making an offering instead of into a fire, it's making an offering into ashes. Jesus said this too. He said, if you're putting an offering on the altar and you have some difficulty with your brother, metaphorically, other living beings, put down your offering, settle things with your brother, and then make your offering. If I don't respect all living beings, it means I don't respect the plan of the Lord. It means I don't respect his laws of nature, his laws of karma. I don't respect his decisions about who should get what when, including myself. So respecting other people's time, other people's energy, other people's things, other people's intelligence, other people's taste, not trying to impose my taste on others, other people's love and affection. And then I can truly advance in bhakti. It's part of my bhakti. It's a result of my bhakti. When I'm spiritually enlightened, I will feel this way. But it's also part of becoming enlightened, is not to make, and Indra's a devotee, okay? He's not like some materialistic demon. And still, although he's a devotee, he's struggling with this to the point of being envious of God. I'm sure he doesn't know that Narnarayan Rishi is God, but to that point. So we have 10 minutes for questions and discussions. This is a very deep topic. We could talk about it, I'm sure, for days. I was just at some seminars of Ramapad Swami where he gave five five classes on this topic of envy, like of 2 hours each, so 10 hours.
Good morning. May I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
My name is Anne, and I feel with the state of affairs and the oppression that we deal with, we need a toolbox to reach out to because as humans, we will always not know. There'll always be an unknowing. We don't know what's going to happen in an hour or in a day, but we do have intuition and we do have ways we can figure things out. But the constant need to know, when we just have to trust. But I
Mm,
think that because of all the energies of the oppressive situations we're forced into, kind of, it's like just too much. It's overwhelming in the
right.
society today. And we have to find our bhakti studio or our whatever that brings us back to our senses, our
Yes, yes.
truthful senses. But my question is just let's build this toolbox. Help me build this toolbox. I'm looking for some other suggestions to grab onto that support, like the Bhakti studio, meeting here in the morning. And
Well, I think one tool in our toolbox is meditating on the fact that everything is actually perfect, that there is a God in control, and that people have their quota because they've earned it in some way. And once they've earned it, it's their choice to use it to protect those who are more vulnerable than them or to exploit those who are more vulnerable than them. And let me use whatever I have for protection and care and upliftment rather than exploitation. Let me become compassionate upon those who are exploitive, because you know what happens if we use our superior power or knowledge or possessions to exploit? Guess what? We're not going to keep them. We're going to be in a difficult position next time. And if I'm in that position, maybe I misused in a previous life. I saw a really funny comedy skit by this one African American man. It was hysterical. I posted it on Facebook where he said it's really hard for black people to believe in reincarnation because then we may have been the slave master who exploited blacks in another life.
mm,
He said the statue that we may be trying to tear down in the town square might have been us. And I thought it was very insightful. And if we remember that there is a law of karma, there is a law of fairness, we're going to be much more satisfied with what we have. And what's interesting is that if we're satisfied with what we have and we will see the world as perfect, we will be in a better position to fight exploitation than if we're angry and envious and fearful of the exploiters. One may think, well, if I become equipoise, then I won't care. But that's not a fact. If I become equipoise, then I'll be filled with compassion. I'll be filled with empathy. I'll be more motivated, and my motivation to help others will not be tinged with any idea that I want to take things away from people or that I want to have a position of exploiting them. Historically, even in one lifetime, often when the oppressed people get a position of power, they then act themselves as oppressors, right? It's a very common phenomena. And so we risk doing that if we're still in this mood of friends and enemies. So that's our one tool in our toolbox, that there is a supreme being who's running everything. He is in control of everything. And whenever I feel disturbed by these things, I can trust that if I get into that mode, if I get into that consciousness, I'll personally be peaceful in this difficult world. I won't see the world as difficult. I'll see the world as run by a benevolent controller, and I'll be in a better position to right the wrongs of the world. So that's a question of meditating on that, remembering that, and when our mind goes to to remember that that I can be an instrument of justice and fairness. I can be an instrument of equanimity once I rise above this type of thinking myself. Is that helpful for you, Anne?
So much, so much. Like, fully committed and unattached.
Yeah, and it's not that it's easy, and it's
No.
not that it's and what do they say? Health, healing, recovery. It's not a straight line. It's not like poof. I mean,
Thank you for your brilliance. Thank you so much. I
yeah.
enjoy you every time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming and facilitating me. Yes, Mahalakshmi.
Well, thank you very much for your answer to the previous question. Helping us to understand that everything is being done by Krishna. And the example of the Black person who had such a hard time to accept reincarnation, because this is happening, of course, within myself, things like that. And it's also happening, I'm sorry, but I couldn't avoid to keep on thinking in what is happening right now in our society, which is like the person who is killing Black people. So killing the facilities to persons who have qualification and are inspiring others to offer their service to Srila Prabhupada's mission. So it's confusing at times, this. Of course, we have to see that it's Krishna's will. And thanks to that apasidanta behavior, those who are affected and are being, so they want to push them down, I feel they are growing further. Yet is confusion, confusion.
Yes. Well, but this happens over and over and over again. And it happens that Krishna gives people what they want. And so Krishna gives if somebody wants to forget him, if somebody wants to be envious, if somebody wants to be offensive, Krishna allows that. And at a certain point, that comes to another space. What I see is that just like Narada Muni pushes Kamsa to kill all of Vasudev's children, so that one could see, pushes Kamsa to attack the residents of Vrindavan. So when Krishna finally kills him, there's no doubt that Kamsa is evil. The Pandavas get so mistreated and cheated in the gambling match, so that when there finally is a war, nobody could say, well, this was unjust. So sometimes Krishna does that, makes things very extreme and makes things very obvious, so that when action is taken, it's very clear. But ultimately, we trust that Krishna will adjust things and people will have a chance either to get rectified or, to deal in their own way and to see like that ultimately everything's fair. Oh, and I want to take Jai's question because we just have 2 more minutes. If that's all right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Jai
Hare
Robinson.
Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just had a question about our own envy.
Mm.
So, how can we traverse our envy without feeling guilty about it? Like, or past deeds, our envy of the past, or how you were mentioning the story of you stealing the little spoon. It
That's
still kind of eats you up.
still
But
possible. It
how do
doesn't eat
we?
me up, but it's still like, wish I didn't do
It's
that.
still there. But
Mm.
yeah, how do we move forward in a positive way without beating ourselves up about
Well,
feeling envy?
first of all, we can laugh at it. I mean, I laugh at my little 5-year-old self that stole the spoon. I never enjoyed the spoon. I never enjoyed it because I had so much guilt about stealing it, but I didn't bring it back either. And I was too embarrassed to bring it back. I think mostly with laughter and compassion for our previous selves. And when we see envy happening in the present, that we stop and pause and move back and say, I don't want anyone doing this to me. I don't want someone taking my stuff. I don't want somebody trying to force me to give my time, energy, affection, care that I'm not willing to give. I want people, as we say in modern parlance, to respect my boundaries. So if I want people to respect my boundaries, let me respect theirs. And just stand back for a minute and say, I really want to respect other people's boundaries. And yeah, with our previous self, I think with humor, how foolish I was, and with compassion. And it's time to greet Radha Muralidhar. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas. Any mistakes are my own. Please take the good and put aside the mistakes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar ki jai.
Urmila Devidasi ki jai.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Words emanating from his lotus mount. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, and by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet.
Prabhupada. Jai Janitai Prabhu. Jai Temple Room. Okay, Janitai Prabhu, we are switching to the afterglow. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Welcome to the afterglow, dear devotees. Isaiah will be answering questions. If you have any questions, please. There's a question in the chat from Nartam Nitai Prabhu. How do we stop the Christian missionaries who are always trying to challenge the existence of indigenous civilizations and actually see the people of India as a threat to their missionary goals? Thank you for the question, Prabhu. Would anyone like to speak on that? I'm always trying to go to Prabhupada when those questions are asked. If we go to Prabhupada, we'll see that how Prabhupada dealt with this. He went to the West and started sharing the message of Lord Chaitanya in the West and with the rest of the world. So he didn't necessarily confront. He didn't curse at the darkness. He just, brought some light. And he also said that Jesus Christ is our guru. So Srila Prabhupada saw the essence. There's no problem with Jesus Christ, but there are some, deviations and misconceptions in any organized religion. But what do? We spread the message of Lord Chaitanya. That's how I would answer that. I hope it's satisfying.
Prabhu, what was the question again? I missed it.
Bhima Tagaraj, Hare Krishna, good morning. The question was, how do we stop the Christian missionaries who are always trying to challenge the existence of indigenous civilizations and actually see the people of India as a threat to their missionary goals? That was the question.
That's, specific to somebody who's actually facing that as troublesome. This has been going on since time immemorial. Religion has been used as a patsy for resource takeover. Like we went to South America, the Europeans went to South America, saw the gold, and said that these people are savages, so we can mass exterminate them. We did it in America to the American Indians and stuff. Has really nothing to do with Jesus Christ. In regards to that, this will always be an issue. Religion is used as a scapegoat to justify. And that's what's really wrong is the essential message of Christianity does not call for the decimation of simple societies. In fact, Christ said, give up everything and live simply and just, like the birds of the field. in indigenous societies, yeah, you tell them to stop being cannibals or maybe dig wells or something. The best things that Christians or any missionary can do is to help the people on their basic fundamental needs. But I do not think that this is a religious question at all, or a spiritual question.
Yeah, those things have nothing to do with Jesus Christ, who is our guru. Sweet. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he said that politics will take care of itself. We need to worry about spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement. And then politics, it's always be there. Okay. Gail has her hand up. Oh, wow. Okay. Bhima, please back me up. Gail is about to speak. Gail?
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, it's more of a. I got two comments actually. I have two comments, not so much questions. Well, in reference to this question that we're discussing now, what occurred to me is that living your life in a way that is chaste to your bona fide religion is the best kind of preaching, and that might take a variety of forms, you know, not necessarily a passive one. Arjuna is our example for that. But yeah, I just feel that living your life according to your faith is the best way to approach the challenges of life. I hope that's not, I hope that answer or that comment is not overly simplistic because it is easy to, easier said than done, but I think that's the kind of attitude that would probably be best. And it does sound like it's a kind of in alignment with what both you and Bhima have said. So that was one comment.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada says chant and be happy. That's the best preaching. Be happy and people will follow your example. What was your next point, Gail?
Well, while Mother Urmila was speaking, the question came up about how to forgive yourself or something like that, when it comes to our past transgressions. And, her response was that we should be compassionate to ourselves. And I was just thinking that a rationale for being compassionate with ourselves, um, speaking as someone who has committed very egregious transgressions herself, I think the best way to be compassionate with ourselves is to recognize that oftentimes we do the best we know how to do based on what we know, you know. So yeah, you can't act on what you don't know, or what you're unclear about. And so if if your past transgressions are based on lack of realization, lack of elevation of consciousness, you know, I mean, we're all going through that right now, and if we're not allowed to act from where we are on our journey, then what is the hope for any of us? That's all we can do. Act from where we are now in terms of our consciousness, in terms of our realization, our level of understanding, and then we grow from there. We cannot be overly down on ourselves for behaving in a way that, you know, was less than perfect. It's part of the human condition to be imperfect. So, and Furthermore, if we give that kind of compassion to ourselves, then it'll be much easier to give that kind of compassion to others instead of behaving in some kind of self-righteous way, as if to say, we were never there, you know, in terms of having a lower consciousness. So
Thank
that was it.
you. Thank you. Yeah, wherever you are, if you're looking in the right direction, if your aspiration is right, if you're reaching for the right tool, like Lady Ann said, in Krishna's toolbox, then you're fine. There's a verse in the Shastra, even if you make a mistake, if you are engaged in devotional service, you're fine. So thank you very much, Gail. Thank you. Dear devotees, would anyone else like to speak? Happy Saturday, by the way. Okay, Amrita Kishori blinked in approval. Thank you, Amrita Kishori. Isaiah Prabhu, Annabelle, Sage, and Sky, if you're here, please turn on your cameras and mute yourself. Ram, look, Isaiah is coming. Isaiah Prabhu. Go for it loudly.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. Isaiah, Annabelle, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Dear devotees, you are our lifeline. It's a pleasure to be with you every day. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam has all the answers. Hare Krishna.